welcome back to the Weekly Word Outdoor Adventures. Thanks for joining us today. We're here on the corner of Broad Street and Inman Street in the old city of Cleveland, Tennessee. Modern thoroughfare today, but during the Civil War, it was just muddy, sloppy streets, and we're here in front of the site. This most recently, in the last 50 or 60 years, this was the location of the old Cook's Food Store. But 100 years before that, back in the Civil War, it was the home of John Wesley and his wife Jane Hardwick. They were Confederate sympathizers, and the Civil War really tore Cleveland and Bradley County apart. There was a lot of people very passionate for the Confederacy, and there were people very, very passionate for the Union Army, and it was just a mess. Not any major battles went on here, but the city was shelled some, and there were quite a few skirmishes in the area. Mrs. Hardwick had two sons off in the Confederacy somewhere fighting, and one day she was here at her home, and there was a young Union soldier and some others came riding down Inman Street, and they shot the one soldier in the side, and he fell off his horse there in the street. Mrs. Hardwick went out to check on him later, and he was a 19-year-old boy from Ohio. He was the enemy to her, but at that point her mommy tendencies overruled her political tendencies, and she sent her slave out to get him and her two daughters. They brought him into the home where she cared for him and cleaned him up, and he was mortally wounded. It took him several days to die. But when he died, she had her slave build a crude casket for him, and her and her two daughters and the slave, they took him down here to the city cemetery and buried him. And let's go down there and see if we can find his grave. His name, we know it was Hazard Barrere. And let's just go down here to the old city cemetery, today known as Ford Hill Cemetery, and see if we can find him. Come on down. We found it. And as Paul Harvey used to say, and now for the rest of the story. Mr. Hazard Barrere, I guess is how you say it. I've only read it, never heard anybody pronounce it. It looks like Barrere. When Mrs. Hardwick and her slave and her daughters brought him down here and buried him, basically all they knew was his name, and he was with the 1st Ohio Cavalry and his company on there. So they put up a crude board with that information on it. As time went by, there was another Union soldier on leave one day, and it was the Lord's Day, Sunday, and he was walking around here in the cemetery, and he saw that board, and he recognized that as his childhood friend from Ohio. And he later, after told his family, got word back to Hazard's mother up in Ohio, and when the war was over, his family came down and they put up this monument. But that's still, to me, when I read that story about Mrs. Hardwick going out there and picking up the enemy out of the street and bringing him to her home and caring for him until she died, I thought, as bitter as times were, she was living out what the Lord asked us to do. Love your enemies. And I couldn't ever think of a better story of someone loving their enemies and practicing what Christ told us to do than that right there. Anyhow, we'll see you next week on the Weekly Word. We'll find some other, hopefully interesting outdoor adventure.